Hi everyone, this is Isaiah Scoburn down 99, and I'm gonna do something a little bit different. For this, I'm gonna do a rewrite, and the rewrite I'm gonna do is on one of the worst movie trilogies, and that is the Human Centipede. Why? Because well, what hasn't been said about these movies? They're really they're poorly written. They're disgusting in the worst way possible, and they're disturbing for all the wrong reasons. But not to mention not mention the fact that even though I never watched these movies, I see some reactions and reviews for them, and the imagery and just the stuff that goes on, it just disturbs the hell out of me. And not in the not in the good not in the good way. But anyway, on with the rewrite. Okay, so the movie first starts off as normal. Well, not as normal, but it starts off Dr. Hyder in his car, but instead of him looking at disturbing pictures of dogs, he's researching on centipedes and responds. Very interesting. I can't do his voice. Then it cuts to Jenny and Lizzie talking about the party that they were going to go to. They go to his house and they go to his house. He then drugs them. Then when they wake up, he then explains on he, he then explains on what on how centipedes are capable of capable of whatever they're capable of, and as he ties them down, he injects them with, I guess he injects them with centipede DNA, I guess. Once they once they eventually escape from him, because in this case they in this one they he doesn't in this one, instead of him stitching them together, instead he basically makes them his lab rats. Eventually they escape from his house, and they try and they try to contact the cops at the end of the movie. Then they start to realize there's certain then they start to realize that they they're slowly starting to grow more. They're slowly starting to grow extra limbs, and they start to act not normal, I guess. And then and then over time, then they slowly start to mutate into, well, as the movie calls, human centipedes. So their bodies start to resemble centipedes. and then they and then because they don't know anybody else to that can cure them of this, they try to they they, they go back they go back to Dr. Hyder's place. And since Dr. Hyder doesn't really care about people, um, he he refuses to help them as long as they keep what he did to them a secret. And if they don't, he threatens to, I guess, kill them. He he then creates a cure. He then creates a cure. He then creates a cure to make just to make sure that nobody suspects a thing about him. He the cure at first doesn't work because the, because the effects haven't fully. I, I guess because the effects haven't fully like cured them, but they are starting to feel different. But then they start to then they start to mutate even more because because like because Dr. Harder's care wasn't finished. But then the cops appear, and the, then they then due to Lizzie and Jenny, I guess, losing their I guess rationality because they're becoming more monstrous. They attack him. And then because Dr. Hyder doesn't want to, and because Dr. Hyder doesn't want to get murdered by them, he locks them up in a cage, and for I guess two 2 or 3 days he he finishes the cure. He gives them the cure, and then the movie ends with the news report uh, uh, of Dr. Hyder being arrested and Jesse and Lizzie. Wait. Wait, did I say it wrong? I meant Jenny and Lizzie. Sorry, J- Jenny and Lizzie being cured of their I guess centipede virus. I guess is what you could call this. And the person who ends up watching the news report turns out to be the the guy. I forget his name. Hold on. The movie ends with Katsuro watching the news report him be, him being shocked by this, and at the same time in denial that something like this would happen. Next, the Human Centipede 2. And for the Human Centipede 2, this one's a little bit easy. This one's a little bit easier. For this one, it starts off where the first one ended, with Katsuro. But the one who's next to him, who's watching this, is the guy who plays Martin. But Martin, unlike in the original, is not is not some is is not some guy is not some mostly silent guy who is well being sexually abused excuse me, by his father. Instead he's one of Katsuro's friends, and and it contain and then for this part for the beginning of the movie, it starts off with them trying to I guess research on Dr. Hyder's experiments, because Dr. Hyder, what his plan was his plan was to improve the human race by giving them attributes of other of animals. It's just the centipede was the first one he went with. So so then they try to they, because they see that because Katsuro is disturbed by it, but Martin is kind of inspired by this. He tries to experiment on himself. He 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 eventually he eventually makes the centipede serum, but and he also creates the cure just in case things don't go the way that they're supposed to. Katsuro and him have very a good relationship so far. They Katsuro at first thinks that Martin is just like he's the first person to see that he's the first person to see that that Martin starts to act differently. Martin gets a visit from his mother, but and And instead of Martin living with his mother, instead he he's still he's still a security guard, but he's still a security guard for he's still a security guard, but instead of living with his mom, he lives with Katsuro, which is his, I guess, roommate. His his mother is his his mother is comes and she's a little worried about him because she hasn't seen him in, I'm gonna say like, I'm gonna say I'm gonna say 5 years. She she then speaks to Katsura about his problem about may, about maybe the fact that his dad was supposedly good, well, good at least in the mother's eyes, in but of course in Martin's, he knows that his father is not the person his mom tells me is. Hatsuro explains to Martin's mom about the whole the whole human centipede, I guess, case. She she is disturbed by it, and in a fit of blind rage, Martin accidentally kills her. Hatsuro runs away. He and tries to seek help for Martin. Ma- Martin, Martin over time. Oh, Martin over time starts to mutate, and then at the very end, it ends with Tetsuro forcing the cure onto Martin. Martin reverting back to who he used to be, and Martin is sent to prison for for murder. Now, finally, for the third installment. For for the third one, it starts off with it starts off 3 years later, after the second one. Dr. Hyder's in prison, and then he and then while he's in prison, he like he is being tortured, but he's being tortured by the he's being tortured by the prison. I mean, by the other prisoners and the guards. Then 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 one of the guards who happens to be another scientist that I guess was inspired by him. I'm not guards. One of the prisoners happens to be inspired by him because they kind of, I guess, see him as some sort of god of some sorts. Decides to create their own Centipede, just like how Martin did. And then I guess he then I guess he then I guess he does he the guard eventually does. I mean not the guard. I keep saying the guard. The prisoner eventually does somehow by I guess maybe finding I guess maybe finding some centipede or something around there in the prison, and gives it to another prisoner. The prisoner mutates into a centipede. Then he and then similar to like a zombie or a vampire, he bites one of them, and then it spreads. And then the only people who survive are the only people who survive the only people who survive the I guess infection, I guess you could say, are Hyder and the guards. Dr. Hyder then has the realization that what he did to those people, what he did to Jenny and Lizzie were probably the most messed up things he's ever done, and he and then in a small fight he has with the guards, he eventually takes the guard's gun away and he blows his brains out. And then it ends like that. And there's no post-credit scene. There's no nothing. It's just it ends with the Human Centipede 3, the end. Hope you guys enjoy this, I guess you could say, rewrite that I've done. If you want to see more like this, then leave a like, subscribe. I'm Isaiah Scorpion John 99. Stay strong and never give up on your dreams. And do not watch this trilogy. Do not watch the trilogy if you don't want to vomit, or if you don't want to feel like you have to take a shower afterwards. Don't watch it, please. In the description of this video, and as well as the comment section, I am going to explain on why I haven't been uploading a little bit lately. So look forward to that. Is that Scorpion 99? Oh wait, no, I already said that. All right, see ya.